Welcome to the Slices of Time Street Photography Podcast. Today I'm joined by Mania De Praeter, aka Poppze, the first Belgian in the podcast and also from my hometown Antwerp. To me, your photos stand out because they're very clean and minimalistic, yet rich in context and story. So let's dive in. Mania, can you introduce yourself a bit?
Well, my name, you said it already, Mania De Praeter, my name. I'm, as a profession, I am a neurosurgeon in my hometown, Antwerp, where I work, but I travel between New York and Antwerp because my partner lives in New York, and I'm in New York now. And so I travel back and forth, and I started doing street photography about 4 years ago during lockdown, where I got a new camera, and of course there were not other things to do. I couldn't come to New York, so I started walking in the streets with my camera, trying things out. I even went to the hospital, which was very empty at that time, and I walked through the empty hallways and took photos there. I dragged my colleagues there to take some photos, and I tried things out, and that's where the journey began, from street photography, where I started walking the streets every time I'm not on call or I'm at home and I have nothing else to do. I go out and take some photos. And
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it started to become an obsession. Not obsession. Something I really like to do.
Yeah, a healthy obsession. But yeah, and so was there like a pre-interest for photography or street photography before that, or was it really just like, I have nothing to do, photography sounds interesting?
I was always the one with the camera during our family holidays, or during my student time when we go on holiday with my husband. At that time, he had a camera too. He was very into photography as well, so we took a lot of photos, and we even developed them ourselves, but it were all travel photos. And during the family holidays, I was the one who took the photos, and mostly photos of the children, of course, 1 or 2 street photographs, but mostly documenting the holidays. So yeah, street photography is something that really started in 2020, when I really went out on the street to take photos.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can imagine that it's kind of an evolution. During lockdown, the streets were more empty probably. To now, did it change your style as well, or?
But not really, because during the real lockdown, the 3 months, you couldn't go out to take photos either. So you had to stay inside. I could go to work. So it was in the hospital that I took photos, and there it was really empty, of course. But on the streets, you weren't allowed to go out to the park or to the city. So once you could go out, it was full of people again. So I don't think that there's a big difference.
Okay, I actually forgot about that period. That you're not even allowed.
A lot of people forget it.
Yeah, it's like, I know we're all stuck inside, and it was like a boring period, but there was like a period for three months here in Belgium exactly that you couldn't. Yeah, you weren't allowed outside except for.
Yeah, I know this exactly, because in my street I was the only one who could go to work, because I was working in the hospital, so it was very convenient. Yeah. So I left. And when I came back, my parking spot was still there. So it was a really great time for me. And my children were at home. And when I came home, they have cooked meals. So it was very good for me.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes some parts of it weren't all too bad.
I know.
But yeah, we're not going back, hopefully. But yeah. So but that's cool. And then, so was it like a way to get out of the house more, or a way to interact with people for you, or?
No, it was a reason to get up early, because I'm very excited when I look out the window, or when I have to go to work and I see that it's misty outside, but I'm very frustrated because I have to go to work instead of going out and take photos. So in the weekend, I get up early, I look out of the window and I see some fog. I really run out and go to the city or to near the water, because there's a lot of fog there, to take photos. So that's a reason to get up early, because otherwise I would just lie a bit in bed, read a bit, do some other things. But this is a reason to get up early, because the light, to be honest, it is the most beautiful in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm not a morning person. I try to be, but yeah, it's better light. It's different, of course, because it's kind of similar light to sunset, but there's less people, so it's like a different atmosphere as well, and of course the fog as well, which also changes it. So because that's something that stood out to me, because I know some of the places you go to or you frequent. And I did notice that it was mostly in the morning because of how the light fell in, but also because I know it's like busy places. But then when you go, there's like 2 or 3 people max. So to me, it's like, is that something? So it's more like your photography, that style of going in the morning and having these empty places evolved more because it was a habit already, and not you didn't create a habit because of you wanted to make these type of photos.
Well, that's a difficult question. I wonder, I've asked this question myself as well. Why am I always taking those this loneliness, this lonely people? I don't know, but even here in New York, where it's pretty crowded sometimes, I managed to find some places where it's really empty. Or for instance, when I was in Marrakesh to go and take some photos, when you're in the central place, it's full. But when you go 2-3 streets, that's typical in a touristic place. You go 2 streets beyond the crowd and there is no one. So you can find empty spaces everywhere. Even now in New York, I go to Central Park, and 2 streets from Central Park, the streets are empty. So that's a thing that I always try to look up automatically. It's not something that I look for, but I cannot find an inspiration in a very crowded place, I think. So I always go and look for some loneliness, some lonely people, and of course in the morning it's easier than on midday. So
but that stood out, and especially exactly like the solitary figures. Like here and there you have a photo with like 2 people, but it's more or less rare.
3 or
here is one with 4, 5, 4. Yeah, there are some groups. Here and there, but is it because you prefer like because it's more aesthetic and more
I
cleaned up?
think that's the reason. I think that's the reason, because my inspirations are other photographers, of course, but also being in New York, my partner knows a lot of art. We visit a lot of art shows, auctions, galleries, museums, and I'm a big fan of work on paper and drawings. And drawings like, for instance, Matisse, his drawings are very simple, and Wayne Thiebaud is another one who's famous for his paintings of food, but he has wonderful drawings of people a bit disturbed, lonely, and so I'm very attracted to this aesthetics of lonely people and black and white. That's why I like work on paper, because it's usually drawings. And Hopper, for instance, he's known for his paintings, but his drawings are really astonishing. Also, these lonely figures there in sometimes at night. I don't know. I like the aesthetics of the clean.
Yeah, but it's funny how you mention like influences that aren't photography related at all. So it's like you get more inspiration from these. Well, it's visual art, of course, but it's like I have to separate from photography. But like the paintings and the drawings, it's more inspiring to you.
Yes, I think so. There are a lot of artists who do drawings and I think they inspire me more than photographers, because, for instance, Saul Leiter, I'm a very big fan of him, very, very big fan. But I don't have his eye, and although I like his photos very much, even if I try, I cannot stand up to that. So I cannot do what he does. So of course I don't want, and that's maybe why I try to find my inspiration not in photographers, because I don't want to become a copy of some photographers. Because if you look at some photographers and say, hey, I like this style, and you do the same, then you become kind of a copy. But in painters, of course, it's different. You can get your inspiration there, but you don't do the exact same thing. And
no, true, yeah.
that's why I'm a bit anxious to copy photographers, because you have to find your own style. And if you look too much at other photographers, you try to copy that style.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We already touched on the morning thing a bit. Is it like, because you travel a lot between Belgium and New York, so the time differs, of course. Do you still try to go like out in the morning in one city and or in both cities, because it's your day changes, or?
Well, even more in New York, because here I'm jet lagged. Which means that I'm up very early. So now it's getting light later than during summer, of course. But during summer, if you want to have the morning light, you have to get up very early. But usually the first night I'm up at 4 or 5. So often happens that I go out and see the sun rise and then come back when my partner is awake at 8 or so.
Yeah. So, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more difficult.
Sorry.
Because no, it's more difficult now because it's light. During winter, it's 7, 8 when light comes up, or when the sun comes up. So then it's difficult to go out, because I stay for 2-3 hours. So then I'm back when he's already gone to work. So in summer it's easier.
And is it like a daily thing you do, or
when I'm here, of course, I can do some work like preparing courses or workshops or whatever, or articles, but I cannot work, of course. I cannot see patients. So when I'm here, it's a big part of my day is taking photographs.
Okay, and in Belgium, when you're at home, it's more like work.
Well, in Belgium, I'm often on call also during the weekend. So it happens that I cannot take photos during 2-3 weeks. But here, when I'm here, my partner's off to work. So he's gone now. And when our call is finished, I probably go out to take photos as well.
Okay. Then I won't keep you too long, because then it's well, too late already for the...
It's a long day. It's too late for the morning light. So then but that's the advantage of the winter. Then I can easier have the evening light, because the sun sets at 5, 6. So I usually come home by 5, 6. So I can have the sunset then. In summer, sunsets at 9. So then I'm already at home here.
I was going to ask, like, because like it's one of the questions I find very interesting for every photographer, but it's like, is there a seasonality to your work? Like for you, of course, it's not only in like the time you can go out, but do you also notice like because the light is kind of different in summer than in winter sometimes, especially when it gets cloudy, or does that change your style, or how you look at things as well? Or is it more like you always have like the same vision and subject matter, but it just changes at what time you go out?
Well, I try not to go out with a certain purpose. I just go out and see what comes in my way. So, and I also try not to let the elements stop me. So when it's raining or snowing or fog, I like those elements because it's different. And I really encourage everyone to go out even when it's raining, because then you can take some very different and very very interesting photographs. So it doesn't matter for me. I like the sun very much because you have long shadows in the morning or in the evening, and you have the black and lights. So I like the sun a lot, but even I'm very excited when it's snowing, for instance. I'm waiting for another snowstorm, which hasn't happened last year. So I'm very excited when it snows, or when there's fog. Or, for instance, I was in Namibia 2 years ago with my children, and we came into a sandstorm, and we went to the Deadvlei, which is usually have very typical photos with long shadows and sharp shadows. But it was a sandstorm. There was no one because no one was crazy enough to go out. But we went, and there was no one there, and it was. I like those photos a lot because it's very different from others, and it was very unearthly, even.
Yeah.
So I like those. Or when I was in New York a year ago, I think it was in 2023 in June, there was a haze because of the wildfires from Canada.
I remember the photos.
Yeah, they turned orange, and I was in Coney Island. I wasn't aware of this fact, and I said, "What is the matter? Everything's orange," and the sky turned orange, and it was very, very mystic. And all of a sudden, there were some monarchs, all dressed in orange, who came walking on the beach. What's the matter? Is this a joke? That was incredible. So sometimes you can see the most unexpected things when you go out on days when you don't expect to see a lot or different things.
Yeah, that's very cool. Like I've been to Deadvlei as well, but for me it was like the typical like it was in the morning because they don't recommend going during the
because it's very
high
busy.
sun. Yeah, and also it's just like the sand is so hot. Even now, like there were like people whose the glue in their boots just
really
it wore away because of the heat. So it can be
so that wasn't the case. It was very windy. It was not warm, and it was very special. It was one of the
that's very unique. Yeah, that's cool. And so the snow, it kind of cleans up everything as well, so it fits your style. So I totally get that. Yeah.
Yes, I like the snow, but it's been a long time since there was snow, so I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, and in Antwerp, it's very rare. Especially for it to stay on the ground. It's like you see it falling, but it's
but even here there used to be 3 or 4 storms a year, and now I think last year there hasn't been one, or a very small one, and then I have to be lucky to be here just at that time when the snowstorm hits. So I'm always frustrated when I'm in Belgium and I see that it's snowing here.
But so then do you like it's the first time I actually asked this question, but then you kind of make sure that your outfits and your camera is prepared to those elements, or?
Well, not really. I always have this plastic cover for my camera for when it's raining or snowing, because I remember the last time I was out here 2 years ago, I took my plastic bag and there were people, "Oh no, you have a bag, so shame we don't have it." So I'm prepared, and there are some cameras and who are resistant to weather, but I don't have one. I have to have a cover. So
I think mine are, but even then it's tricky. It's like it's to some degree, but if you really go into like the sandstorm in Namibia, I'm not sure if
that's the problem for the sand. So I have always my cleaning tools for my camera, so I clean it up, but of course it's not very healthy for your camera. But at that moment you don't think about that, you just take photos.
That's cool. I think like to an extent it's like you don't have to be too precious about your camera as well. Like you have to take the photos, and the camera is replaceable, but like a sandstorm in Deadvlei in Namibia,
you never see it again, right?
I don't think it happens. Like not many people have that photo. So that's cool. Also, like I'm very curious to like do you notice a difference in your behavior as well, or in your eye or photography between Antwerp and New York, or is it like similar, or because they're kind of different cities?
I don't think it's very different, but of course Antwerp is so much smaller that I think I've seen it all, but that's not true. I ran the half marathon last weekend.
I saw it on your stories. Yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So when I didn't see a lot because I was very tired. But anyway, you run to whole of Antwerp and you see a lot of streets where I thought I should come here. There was a street I was running during the through the streets where the Antwerp Jews live, and there were 4 children sitting behind a window, all next to each other, watching, and I was one moment I thought, I should stop and take a photo. But of course, I only had my iPhone with me. But you can see a lot of things on unexpected moments. So I usually always have my camera with me, and it's in my handbag. I always have it with me, except for when I was running, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what I was saying, that Antwerp is small. So I think I've seen it all. And New York is so big. And I've been here for 12 years, nearly every month. And still there are a lot of places where I have not been. Or it's true that I often go back to the same place because it's very photogenic. And even I noticed yesterday I arrived and I went to Dumbo, and I've been like 1,000 times in Dumbo. But different times the shadows change at 1 minute, because in 1 minute there was a shadow of a street light just on the corner, and I turned around to focus or to look for something, and looked back and it was already changed. So it changes so quickly that you have to go back a lot of times to see very different things, because the buildings are high here, the shadows change so quickly, and depending upon summer or winter, it's very different. So I still have a lot of more years to. I need a lot of more years to have to see everything here. So
yeah, and by then they have changed some neighborhoods or some buildings, and then you can start again. Yeah,
yeah, because I took some photos in a neighborhood with very beautiful shadows of a very strange thing, and I went back there the other time I was here, and the building was gone. So possibilities to take the photo there.
Yeah, exactly. Even in Antwerp, I notice now that it's you can go to like one square, and it's like you can have 10 totally different photos of the one place. So New York must be heaven.
Yeah, it is.
So like on the frequency of places, like do you have, like, if you go out in the morning, do you have like a specific place in mind that you like, even as a starting point, or do you just like walk out the door and see what happens?
Well, I live just outside of Antwerp. The Single, that's the thing around Antwerp. I just live outside. So I want to go into that part of Antwerp, and it takes me 10 minutes. So the closest thing is the station, Central Station, Berchem Station. So I usually start there, and then I start walking. But because when I have to drive, I take the car, I have to drive, then it's already 20 minutes later and the light has changed. So I often go to the same place, and you probably have seen I have a lot of pictures around Central Station because it's very close to my home. And then
the one tunnel of the Plantin-Méritis. I told he was the first guest on this podcast, Thilo Jenig. He was in Antwerp like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we stood on the bridge and was like, so we have Mania De Praeter. This is like, I feel like this is her spot, because I saw all these photos and I can like pinpoint exactly where you made them. But it's I've never.
But it's also so different there on that bridge. If you are there in winter, summer, morning, mid, it's totally different. I have hundreds of photos there, but it's sometimes I was there a month or 2 months ago, and I had a photo with a light I've never seen before, just falling on sea. You have to be there at that exact time because it changes so quickly. So it's
and it's like it's usually a very busy street, but in the morning it seems so quiet and peaceful. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So I really like.
You even have to wait for people to come. So, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
okay. Yeah. If I go there in at the evening, it's never an issue for people.
No,
it's waiting for
cars,
one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cars are crazy there. But it's okay. That's cool. But also in like New York, because you mentioned like exploring the city, is it like, do you sometimes say like, okay, I'm going to this particular neighborhood and start somewhere, or is it?
Sometimes yes. Like I'm very much like Coney Island. I always, when I'm here, always go one day to Coney Island. Also in winter, because it's very different in winter and summer. And I usually choose for beautiful day to go there. But the last time I was there, it was cloudy and stormy, and that is even more special. So now I try try to say I'm gonna go on that day when it's raining or not raining. I just gonna go that day. But usually, like later on, I'm still deciding where I should go because Central Park at this moment is very beautiful with all the colors. But as I take a lot of photos in black and white, it's difficult to take photos in the park. But I think I have to see it. So usually I just hop on the train, I get off, and then I'll see where, if when I get out, usually I stay there for a long time because I always see something interesting, and then I sometimes wait very long to when I see beautiful scene, but not a lot of people. I sometimes wait very long to see someone coming, something interesting to come. So I'm very patient. I'm usually not a patient person, but for photography, I'm very patient. I can wait for hours just to have someone come in, something interesting, an interesting scene to develop. So, and I don't have a plan. I just go out, take a train, and sometimes I change my mind and then I get off and take the train back and get out there. So it changes very quickly.
Okay. Yeah. So it's funny. So you're like very improvising and like last minute person in deciding where you go, but then at the same time you can also wait for like hours in one place.
Yeah, that's a strange thing. Not a lot of people believe that I can do this because I'm very impulsive, but I do. Because sometimes I meet people here who take photos, and a friend, which I knew from Instagram, she came here for Women Street Photographers last year, and she was mailing me weeks before to ask, where is this place? Where is this place? Where is that place? So she had a plan. It was all planned out. Every day she had to see all the spots that she wanted to see. It was all on her map. It was all in her agenda, and I never do it that way. I just go out and see what happens.
Yeah, that's different for everyone. That's also like the more or less the reason of this podcast, just to show like there's 1,000 ways to go about it. Doesn't really matter. Like you can like listen to these people who are doing this for years and are doing a great job. Like you, your photos are amazing. It's like use these, like not just use their photos as inspiration, but also how they work. Like see if it works for you to go just at random to a place, or maybe it works better for you to plan it out. So it's really cool to have all these different aspects. But so like to me, it's crazy. You can wait for hours on a spot. Like, do you really like focus on one particular frame, or are you still looking around, or how do you?
Well, sometimes I see, but that is the thing. Here you cannot wait very long because it changes so quickly, but sometimes you have a very beautiful light that falls in a specific way, in a specific corner, and then I'm just waiting for someone to just pass in the right corner of that shadow to have the right composition. And then that can take 4 hours, but sometimes I took 100 photos and I don't like any. So, and then sometimes at certain places I take 100 photos and I like them all. So if the setting is right, so it's very different.
Okay, but cool.
I usually look for I have a certain composition in my head, and I'm looking for that. And sometimes I want to take photos differently, because when I look at photos like Henri Cartier-Bresson, Vivian Maier, Saul Leiter, even his black and white photos are also astonishing. But some way I have a different eye. I think everyone has his own eye. I don't see those things. I see always see the same thing. And sometimes I say to myself, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna take different photos, and I always come back with the same photos. It's sometimes frustrating. So I try to do something different, but it always happens that I come home with the same photos.
I kind of have the same. Like for me, it improved if I go out with someone else. Like make less photos, but then you can see like, okay, they do it like this or they do it like that. So that can be interesting, of course. But do you sometimes go like on photo walks with someone else, or is it more like a personal solitary thing for you?
It's better to go out by myself, but I sometimes walk with others, but I never have great photos when I go out with others. We talk a lot and I take some photos, but like I said, I sometimes have to wait. But if you're with someone else, you cannot sit there and say, hey, go ahead, I'm gonna wait. So it's difficult. I take some shots, and I have some photos that are really candid photos when I go out with my friend, with my partner. Of course, I don't let him wait. So sometimes I see something, I take a photo, but then you have to be lucky that it has the right composition, the right light, and it happens. But usually, the best photos are when I'm out by myself.
Yeah, I can imagine, because one of the things that I noticed is like all your compositions are really like clean, well thought out, like all the lines, like they fit, like they so do you really like work a scene, as they say? Like, do you really go and look for like the right corner? Or is it more like instinctive, or like?
It is instinctive, but although I cannot stand a crooked line, or if there's too much garbage, for instance, I cannot stand that. So I need that cleanliness. I don't know why. Sometimes I'm afraid that my pictures are too clean, but I cannot have it the other way. So I sometimes see photos of others, say, oh, that's a great photo, but why is this? It's not totally straight, or I don't know. It's a mental thing, I think.
No, yeah, but that's fun, because it's I think that's different for everyone. Like for me, like watching your work, for example, like there were some photos that I was like, okay, this is like, you really inspired me to be mindful of my lines a bit more. But at the same time, I do also enjoy like a quick, messy photo. But it's like it's a different style for everyone, I think. So it's like, to me, your photos don't come over as too clean. I think it's like they're just like, they're well thought out. They're as they should be.
But it's. I did a talk in Oslo on the street photography festival, and that's what I talked about the lines and my doubts, and my inspirations, my doubts. And one of my doubts is that I think my photos are too clean, and I'm sometimes jealous of people. I see those photos messy or from very close up, those photos on the street I like very much, but I cannot take them. No, it's yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Like I see it as well. Like, so people who can spot these amazing moments, it's like small moments. I don't see those on the or rarely on the streets, or I'm too late. So I'm like, how do you predict it well enough so you can take the photo? So that's that's a skill. I think it's something you have to train. Or
well, sometimes I see them, I take photos, and then I look at them and say, no, I cannot deliver that photo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, but also sometimes I think like I have made those photos, but to me, because they don't feel like me, that I discard them. But they're actually good. But it's maybe also in a selection process. Like you make those photos, you make them as well as someone else, but it's because you don't really feel the connection with it in your work.
Yeah, that's a strange thing, because I could post tomorrow photos that no one would recognize as my photos, but that's what a lot of people say nowadays. We recognize your style by now. So I could post them and everyone would say, what's that? What is she doing? So it's you develop your own style, and then it's difficult to go back or to do something else.
Is that something your like your style? Is it something you really like kind of decided on, and it's like you're mindful of keeping that style on your Instagram, for example? Or
no, it's not on purpose. It's like I said, I just happen to come back always with those photos, and these are the photos that I like, and I feel something when I see them. And the others, I have on my iPhone 100,000 photos, so it's getting pretty full.
Yeah,
so I have way more than I post, of course, but it's very strange. It's very strange why I cannot post. I have some great photo of a workman who's doing some street work here in New York, and afterwards he opened the fire what's it called?
Fire hydrants or?
Yes, to wash himself, and he's bending over, and there's water is all around. So I have this photo, and I really like it. And I think someone else would have posted it right away, but I don't know why I cannot post it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not too clean. I don't know.
Okay,
So
that's
sometimes-
funny. Yeah. So, like, also wanted to like go into your because you mentioned earlier like the orange sky and the orange monks together. It's like because you're very into black and white, but you also have like a color account. Is there like a reason do you prefer black and white because it's more clean, or is it like just like you decide on the photo, or?
It's a bit by accident. When I started, I had an account just on my name, just to post regular things. But with doing some photography, I started to posting photos during lockdown. I said I'm gonna post them because otherwise, who is going to see my photos? And you want to have some feedback, so I posted them. But they was not very successful, and I said, okay, maybe they're just not good enough. But there was one woman, which I got to know through Instagram as well. She sent me direct messages. You have to keep going. Your photos are so good. And she kept me going. But then what I noticed is when I posted in black and white, it had way more likes. I said, what is? And I created a different account just to post the photos. And the other account was a personal account. So I started to post black and white photos. And then it became more and more successful on Instagram. And I decided to post because like those days with the orange sky, I have them in black and white. I like them in black and white as well. But of course, the color is very special at that time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to post some photos as well. And I decided to post my color photos on the former account and the black and white on the newer account. And that's how it happened. And now sometimes I don't take photos in black and white. I just take photos and then decide whether I'm going to put them in black and white or color. And I only put them in color if there is a very special color or if sometimes the color cannot be ignored, but usually or very often I prefer the black and white version. So
okay, that's cool. Yeah. So I assume you shoot raw and you don't really you don't have the like in the viewfinder that you turn it to black and white.
I sometimes do it. I sometimes put it on black and white. I can do this with my camera, but I don't like it because sometimes I want the color.
Yeah, but then the raw photo normally is in color as well. But you like to see the photo in color, even though you know you're gonna make it black and white, or
and I try to do it to look at it in black and white, but it doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I like to see it in color and then decide whether to put it in color or black and white.
Okay. Yeah, but that's interesting because usually it's like the advice to shoot in black or like put the viewfinder in black and white because it's more easy. But I totally understand your way of working.
I tried it a few days, but then I was sorry because it was a very beautiful color and I hadn't seen it because it was in black and white. I saw it afterwards on the raw images, but
okay, okay, makes sense. So like to go a bit further on that, perhaps is like you shoot raw, you convert them to black and white. Is it like how much of editing do you do, or is it like something you try to get done as soon as possible?
It depends. When I'm here and I come home at night and my partner's here, I don't do the editing anymore, and I do it the next morning when he's off to work again. Or when I'm at home, it takes sometimes a few days before I have the time to edit. I try not to edit too much, but I end up with editing a lot usually because I do it a bit very strange. People find it very strange how I edit my photos because I don't use Lightroom or Photoshop. I use free tool, the Snapseed and Retouche. And it works for me. I do it on my iPad. I use my Apple Pen to make it more light, some certain parts are more dark, and everyone says, but you can select them, but it doesn't work for me. I've tried it, and for me the editing is also kind of a zen thing to do. It's like drawing. I do it on the plane. When I'm on the plane, I do the editing, for instance. I edit the photos, and I like the editing as much as the photography itself. So
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't hear it often. It's like often it's like I just want to get the editing done as soon as possible and get out again. But it's cool, and it's also like kind of makes me think about you mentioned like drawing the making darker by pen on the iPad. Kind of reminds me on what you said earlier about like the drawings and the paintings.
yeah.
So it's kind of I see a connection there. I'm not sure how it is connected, but it seems like there's some kind of
Yeah, and I like to draw as well, because when I was not taking photos before, I'm always drawing doodles, but also try to draw from other pictures. So I like drawing as well. And what I do now is drawing by editing the photos. So
yeah, it's cool. Yeah, and like Snapseed is it's kind of same as Lightroom. I find like it has more or less the same options, and it's free, and it's great on mobile. So it's funny, yeah. And like you mentioned the retouch app. Is it like sometimes you remove like because you said like you can't handle like a dirty street. You sometimes
Exactly.
remove like
garbage. Yes, when there's garbage just next to my subject, and then I can remove the garbage.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
But that's something like cleaning up the streets.
Yeah, but then digitally. That's cool. Yeah, and for you, it's like a Zen thing as well. So that's I enjoy editing as well. It's kind of like there's a magic to seeing your photo come alive in that way, I think.
Yes, I love it. Love it. And I have 100,000 photos on my iPhone. Even if I should stop taking photographs right now, I have a lot of editing to do on this photos.
Okay. So how much time do you spend, like, because you're very patient with your photo taking, but are you also patient with like editing them? Like how long do you take with one photo?
Depends. Sometimes the photo is good as it is, but even then you can improve it a little bit. And sometimes I had one photo. I don't know if you know the photo with the three Jewish people in Williamsburg through the rear window of a school bus. It's the picture.
Oh yeah, I see it here. Yeah. Oh, that's a cool one. Yeah, I didn't see it before.
Well, this picture was on my computer, and I hadn't noticed it at first because it was in color. It was a bit dark. But sometimes when I come home or when I'm on the plane, I go through the photos that I took, and I saw this photo and I put it in black and white, get it with a little bit more contrast, some more light, and suddenly it became, hey, that's an interesting photo. Before I hadn't noticed it. So sometimes the editing suddenly shows something different and shows an interesting photo, which I hadn't seen before. It happens also that after a few months, when I'm looking back at photos, I see one photo that I hadn't noticed, and I take it and edit it, and it's suddenly, hey, it's a very good photo, but I hadn't seen it before. So that often happens.
So it's to me that's amazing, or like very different to how I work, because I get home, I load all the photos into my Lightroom, I like check them immediately, I edit the ones I like, I export them, and then I'm kind of done with the raw files. I don't really go back and watch my old photos in that regard, like only the ones I already edited and completed. So to you, for me, that's funny that you sometimes just go back to your old photos and like, oh, this one's great, and then
it often happens. It often happens that I'm even now go back to photos 2 years ago, which I've taken, for instance, I don't know, in Marrakesh, and hey, this photo I hadn't seen before, because the raw files are on my iPhone as well. So then I put it in I have different albums. So I put in an album that I have to edit. And then when I come home, I try to edit it, and suddenly, hey, that's an interesting photo. I haven't seen it, and it happens very often.
Okay, that's very cool. Yeah, that's to me is very mind blowing, but that's cool. And while we're on the topic, maybe because it's a photo of the three Jewish people, but I see them a lot in your work. Is there like a specific affinity, or is it just because it just happens that they're Antwerp and New York are the biggest places, or the biggest communities of this type of Jewish people? Is it because of that, or is it because you have like an affinity with it, or?
It's a lot of people ask it, and of course it's because I live in Antwerp, very close to me, and here in New York, in Williamsburg is also close. But I like it because their dress, they dress very elegantly. The black hats, the black clothes. I like simple clothes. I always look when I'm photographing. That's also the same when you go to Morocco, for instance. People have long dresses. It's very photogenic, more than someone here with his sneakers, baggy jeans, a colorful jacket. I'm not attracted to that. I like the black and white thing, so I like the black clothes. It's very elegant. It's very timeless. So you can take a picture of Jewish people with their black hats, can even have been 100 years ago. So I like the photogenic part of it.
I figured that would be something like that, but I wanted to ask to be sure, because indeed, like you're very silhouette minded. So of course, the Jewish people they have a very specific silhouettes, and as you say, they're very
also beautiful shadows with the head and the shadow on a wall.
Yeah.
It's very
very true. Yeah. So, like, do you ever interact with people? Because it always seems like it's very rarely that you really go in their face, or like, I mean, like you're in front of them. Let's say.
Yes, that happens very rarely. That's true. It's usually from a distance, or from behind, or from side. They're not often recognizable, and so I often don't interact. I usually try to disappear in the scene. So sometimes I'm almost bending down. I'm taking the photos, and people don't even notice me. So because when they start to notice me, then the magic is gone. So I usually interact. Sometimes they come to me and ask me, and I show them the photos, but usually it's so far from a distance, or from a corner that they don't see that I often don't interact. In the Jewish quarters, sometimes they approach me and ask me what I'm photographing, and then I show them, and then they usually agree when I show the photos, but often they're, especially right now, they're very suspicious about everything and everyone who's taking photos. So I have been approached by the police, who were asking what I was doing there, because I was taking photos, and I showed them the photos, and it was not a problem at all. But I know one Jewish person who even asked me, come and take some photos. So then I have photos from him right in the face.
Oh, really?
But otherwise, of course, I don't do this, except if they really agree to have their photo taken.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So yeah, because it's as you said, it's kind of like they're very suspicious at this moment of everything in their neighborhood. That's kind of out of the ordinary. I do think they're used to photographers by now a bit, but just, and maybe to circle back, I was wondering if you still do anything like in the hospital, or is it like for you that was just in the beginning an interesting topic, but now the hospital seems like not, because I don't really see back in your work these days.
No, I have a lot of photos though, even though I don't post them, and I'm working, or in my head, I'm working on a project about those photos, because when I was showing the photos in Oslo, and I showed some pictures from in the OR, they were all came back to, why don't you do anything with those photos? Very special, because of course I have the possibility to go very close to my colleagues. I can take them from beyond, from above, from whatever. So they also are used to me by now. I often bring my camera when I'm not operating or the residents are operating. I'm taking photos and they're used to it by now. I have a lot of photos and I have to do something with it. So I'm gonna do something when I have a story. So I'll make a story from in the hospital. I do like it, but it's not street photography. It's something different. But I do it as well. But I haven't done anything with it.
No, yeah.
So I'm working on that in my head at least.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's very interesting. No, I was just wondering because you mentioned it as a topic like at the start, but then it kind of like faded. Like it seemed like you didn't really do anything with it. But it's cool that you still like do it, and even though you don't publish the photos yet, it's fun to have those kind of projects. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think like I'm not sure like how do you. That's maybe a very difficult question, and maybe something for myself as well. But I'm now wondering like how much of your work do you publish, and how much is kept. Like I'm not gonna say hidden, but like how much do you hold back because it's like for another project or personal or.
Until now, not a lot is held back, but like I said, the hospital thing is something that I don't post, but I have to do something with it. And I also want to do something with the photos, New York, Antwerp, maybe make a project about that. And I recently took photos of my sister-in-law who is doing pottery. She's I don't know how to say it in English, actually.
Pottery, yeah, I think it's
pottery, yeah. And so she asked me to take some photos for on her website, and I actually liked them, and she liked them as well, to have photos from her hands doing the work. So I have a lot of photos also of doing surgery. My colleagues are operating during the work or washing their hands. So I was thinking about a little project, maybe around something with hands, but
okay. Yeah.
I'm thinking about.
That's cool. And I'm wondering, like, do you, for example, for the hospital photo, is it like a similar style to your street photography? Like, it's very well. I assume an operation room is fairly clean, of course, but
it has to be clean.
It has to be clean. But is it like, do you, or because it's more in your colleagues' faces, for example, it's maybe less clean and
it's pretty clean.
Still, okay.
Still, yeah. This and depends a bit. I'm now trying to force myself to take them less clean and to take more candid and more other factors around, but usually it's clean.
Okay. And is it like with the same setup as your street photography? Like, I'm not sure what kind of lens you use, but it's like one camera, one lens, or?
I only have one lens that's a 24-70. No, I have a 70-200 that I nearly uses it, except for when in Namibia, for instance. But I usually take the 24-70, so it goes for on the street, in the ER, the hospital, everywhere.
That's a very good lens for overall use, yeah. To me, like it's like I'm not sure if what camera brand you use, but it's like for me the 24-7 is kind of like I think it's a big lens. So for me, it's like I don't like using it on the streets because it's too.
It is big, but I have a 50 lens, but I'm always frustrated when I have it because it doesn't go wide enough on the street when I'm a bit further away. But I've talked to someone who's taking kind of the same photos like I do. And he says he always uses, I forgot, a 24-200, a very wide lens.
Wow, okay, yeah.
So I'm frustrated if I have only a 50. So I usually take the 24-70, even though it's big. It is big. But since I'm not really in the face, it usually works. But I see a lot of people, street photographers, with a very small lens. And I've tried, no, not tried, I just held it in my hand, the Leica, which has, I forgot which one it was, but you could crop on the screen, not in real time. And well, it's very expensive, so I haven't bought it. But that attracts me too because it's smaller and fits easier in my handbag. And this big lens, it's very heavy. I have to carry it all day. It's a heavy.
Yeah. A camera with a 24/7 in your handbag. I'm sure it's the heaviest object in.
Yes,
in
people always are very surprised when they feel my handbag, how heavy it is.
Yeah, for me it's like I'm usually out like I use a 50mm a lot because I really like it. I also have this like 28, which is like very small like this, because like Thiebaud put me onto it because he always uses 28, and I really like. So for me it was it's kind of strange to hear you use the 24-70 for your photos because it kind of felt like I'm not sure, like it was always like the same lens or same how do you call it, like distance. Focal
differs a
distance.
bit. It's sometimes
Yeah.
24, but sometimes 70, but only in that range, 24-70. That's the lens I think all my photos on Instagram are taken with that lens, maybe for one exception, because during the night, when I go out for dinner and it's dark, then I sometimes take the 50 lens because it's 1.8.
Yeah.
And it's less heavy, and my partner thinks I should leave my camera behind, and I secretly put it in my bag anyway, but then...
With the 50mm, it's less heavy.
Yes.
Yeah, true. That's smart. I don't see a lot of night photos though. I think
No.
You just feel less...
I'm not good at it. I think I try to, but I don't know. I'm not pleased with my night photos.
It's I noticed that you said it a couple of times, like I want to, like you're not good at it, or you want to improve with for example with the messier photo, not improving messier photos, it's improving and making it messier. Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, anyway, but it's like is it like something you consciously do, like for example, like you like for example with your colleagues that you mentioned, you speak to yourself and say like, I'm going to make a messier photo now, or that's
I say
something.
to myself, and I don't succeed in doing it.
And you still make the clean photos. Yeah. Okay, great. And it's, you mentioned like the cropping. Is it like something you do afterwards as well? Because it kind of feels like your compositions are really well thought out, and it's like done in camera for most of it.
I try to. For me, it's a sport to take a photo that's finished like that. So I try to do the composition, but of course, sometimes it happens that you take a photo very fast and then I crop it, of course, or I turn it. But I try to take the picture as it is. I would like, but I won't. But I would like to try to just take film. And then not edit it anymore. But of course, why should I do that and then buy a film roll and go to the store, develop and whatever? So I'm not going to do it, but I try to make it a sport to shoot as if it was a film. But
okay, yeah. And so does that, like, not only for editing or like composition go, but also like in how many photos you take during the day? Are you like, because for me, like I take 200 photos in like an hour or 2 hours, and I keep 5 or 10.
Yeah.
Is it for you, like, are you more mindful of it, like shoot on film? Like
I try to,
okay,
but it doesn't always work, because if you're waiting there for hours and there's someone coming, then I often put it on a speed mode that I certainly don't miss anything. So I'm not
and then you have 10
guilty
photos
to
of the
that.
same person.
Yeah.
Okay, no, because you mentioned the analog thing, I was curious. Yeah, for me, I get the idea of shooting analog for the editing and like the look and feel of film, but at the same time, as you said, like it's such a hassle for developing, and like I know you mentioned at the start you've done it as well, developing your own film and stuff. I've done it as well in school, but it's for me it's the most stressful thing ever, because if you ruin it, then your photos are gone as well.
Yeah, no. I can't even remember the time when we traveled and we had our bag full of film rolls, and then afterwards that was the only thing that was important from our holiday were the film rolls, and then you protect them with your life. No, I don't gonna go through the security. I don't want to ruin my photos. It was
Yeah. Yeah, you can apparently ask for them to not scan the
Yeah.
roll and do like a manual check, it's called.
Yeah.
But they don't often. But apparently it's not that dangerous. The X-ray machines, it's not that
well,
bad for
maybe
you.
30 years ago it was. So I
Yeah.
always made a fuss out of it. It was very difficult.
No, but I can imagine. Yeah, it's. I do have like here actually. Like I do have a small compact analog, but I don't think I've used it for like 6 months or so now. So there's like half a roll left on it because it's just too much of a hassle. Yeah.
But I find it interesting. I saw the people from Oslo Street Photography Club there. They often do a walk with single-use cameras, analog cameras. So everyone has one, and they go out and walk, and then afterwards they see what they develop. I find it very interesting to see.
That's a cool. Yeah, I have it's like it's called Campsnap. It's like a small camera. It's kind of like an analog compact throwaway camera, but it's digital. But you make your photos, but you can't see them. It's just like you snap the photo, and it's a digital, like a JPEG. I'm not sure.
When can you see them then?
Well, then you should connect them with the computer, of course, and then you can see it like kind of like it's an SD card, but there's no screen or something. It's really just like the idea is to make photos and be in the moment, or like give it to your kids so they can make photos at camp. It's like a really simple camera. It's just an on and off switch and a flash switch. But that's about it. You have like a small LCD screen, which is like an old calculator screen, which just gives like the number of photos you have made. So that's about it. But it's like, that idea I do get, because I'm very much someone who looks at his camera a lot when I'm photographed. So I look to the screen to see, like usually I don't mind it too much because I usually also look like, can I improve on this composition? Like, am I too low or too high, or I'm not sure. But I do get like the in the moment, don't look at the camera too much. I'm not sure, like, do you look at the back screen after you made a photo and be like, okay, I have to move an inch to the left? Or?
I do, because then I decide, yes, okay, I have it, and I can go to another place.
So okay, yeah.
Quickly, I try not to look too much and edit and delete them at that time, because then you lose the moment. So I just look for, yes, I have the photo, I can go on. I can go to the next scene.
Okay, yeah. But it's like after every like person that passed you have a quick look of, okay, still, that's great. Okay, same for me. That's good to know. Yeah, so I'm thinking like, I think we're almost at an hour. I'm trying to get these episodes a bit shorter because the last 2 or 3 were, I think, an hour and a half. And to me, like, I don't mind it because I really like the conversations always. But I know like if I see a podcast which is longer than an hour, it's for me usually a bit demotivating.
Yes, because when I was running, I had to run sometimes for 2 hours, and I was looking for podcasts that lasted too long enough, because otherwise I have to listen to 2.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't mind. Like I love to have like 2 or 3 topics. You listen to podcasts while running?
I did it, a few times. Usually I run without ears, but when I had to do the 18 kilometers or the long runs, I tried to listen to podcasts.
Okay, yeah, for me, I prefer music at that moment, but
yeah, but I said maybe I learned something while running. So
yeah, that's true. Do you do it also on your podcast walks? On your photo walks? Sorry.
No, I don't have ears.
Nothing like no music.
No, I don't wear them very often. It's even when I did the half marathon, I didn't wear ears. I just want to enjoy the moment and listen to the songs.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because it's kind of 50-50, or it's not really 50-50, but some people, I kind of prefer some music sometimes when I walk.
Yeah, it's a generation thing, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I know, I think Iris as well. She listens to music.
While she's taking photos.
While she's taking photos, yeah, and also, it's like the episode will be coming up. Well, for you, it will be coming up soon. For the people listening now, it's already published. But it's like, for me, for example, I listen to like repetitive house and techno music, but it's like on a lower volume, so I still hear everything around me. But it's just like a layer of a certain atmosphere to just get me in like a specific focus and mindset. But
Really?
Yeah.
I never heard that people listen to music while taking photos.
Yeah, it's sometimes, yeah, I not all the time. Sometimes I'm just like doing in the scene, but it can sometimes help to get like a specific mood and eye for me. Yeah. So yeah, let's wrap it up here. Like I've seen that you're active on Instagram, of course. So I'll put the links in the description. But I also saw you were participating in some contests, maybe, or like contests or festivals. Sorry, there was like something in Dublin, I think. Is that something people can like look up or?
I don't know much about it yet, but I think they're gonna do a little exposition of some people, the photographs of some people. They asked if they could do that, and of course, I was very honored. I said yes,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to go to the Dublin Street Photo Festival in May. So that's the thing about Instagram. I usually say it's not important how many likes you have, but we have to be honest, without Instagram, I wouldn't be talking to you or wouldn't be invited to Oslo or to Dublin. It's an opportunity because people see your work and get in touch with you. So it's
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, cool. So I'll put information for that festival in the description as well, especially your Instagram. So I'm sure people could follow some more there. So I'll do the outro now. So thank you, Mania, for your time and insights. It was very interesting. If anyone wants to follow her, yeah, thank you for your time. It was really, even though it's funny because we live like not that far away from each other.
No.
Now you're in New York, so we had to calculate in the time difference. So you're the first person in America to join the podcast, but you're also the first Belgian to join the podcast, and you're the first from Antwerp, especially. So that's very nice to have all those first. And you're on the 007 episode. So I'm not sure what it means, but it's like you have the James Bond 007. So if anyone wants to follow Mania, I'm sure to put the links in the description. Make sure to go follow, see all her spectacular photos. Also join the podcast on all the platforms, or on your favorite platform at least, and follow me for any new updates about new episodes. And again, all the links to all the information that's been said is in the show notes. You find the link to that in the description as well. And I'll see you in the next episode.